call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, December 21st, 2017. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Harley, please call the roll.
Yes. Commissioner Stevens?
Here.
Commissioner Knobloch?
Here.
Commissioner Heikela? Commissioner Casey?
Here.
Commissioner Schmolke?
Here.
Chair Schwartz?
Here.
And I'll let the record show that Commissioner Stevens is absent.
Our first order of business this evening is to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Heikela, second by Knobloch. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of our November 16th meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes of the November 16th meeting. Second.
Motion by Casey, second by Stevens. Any corrections or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'll abstain.
Yeah. I have one abstention, Commissioner Schmolke. Our first order of business under new business this evening, planning case 17-36, request for dimensional flexibility to allow 432 square feet of wall signage, 20 Coon Rapids Boulevard, Quality Sign Solutions. Mr. Harlicker.
Yes, Chair and Commission. What is being requested is, the Chair said, is dimensional flexibility to allow 432 square feet of wall signage where 200 feet is allowed. The property is down here in Northtown Village. It's the old Circuit City space right here, highlighted and outlined in orange. With Coon Rapids Boulevard here, Highway 47 University here, and University swings through here. The applicant is proposing to install 216 square feet of signage on each side of the entrance. There's kind of a V-shaped portal over the entrance to the space. It was really designed for signage on both sides, which is what Circuit City had. And they're proposing 216 feet on each side. The business name, Minnesota Home Outlet, is 183 square feet. And then the business's logo is 33 square feet. For a comparison, the Michaels facility building, lease space, I guess you call it, is right here. They've got 266 square feet, and their sign is 7 feet tall. That was approved back in 1999. And then Circuit City, their signage, their total was 404 square feet. They had signage on both sides, and then they also had product signage in all these spaces here, as does the Michaels business. Like stated earlier, they are requesting design flex or dimensional flexibility. Code allows it, provided the Planning Commission finds that the applicant demonstrates that the modification will result in better integration of the use. This property here, it's zoned community commercial, and in the community commercial district, they're allowed up to 200 square feet of signage, 10% or 200, but 200 is the max. The wall on which the signs are located is 4,900 square feet. 10% of that is 490. The requested sign is 432 square feet. The letters of the Minnesota Home Outlet are 42 inches tall, and then you've got the emblem here, which is a little bit taller. Like I said earlier, the entrance is really designed to accommodate 2 signs. If you look back to the location map, the store here is about 725 feet from the shopping center entrance here, and about 1,000 feet from here. And the sign is visible looking across, so people at this intersection can see it. And looking at multiple sign readability tables, staff found that 42-inch letters, which is what they're proposing, are best legible at a distance of 420 feet and have a maximum legibility of 750 feet. So the letter size really ties in with the distance from the entrance and the intersection. Proposed signage will result in better integration of the business into the shopping center. Because of its the design, it is flexible, or it is visible from vantage points looking out this way as well as out this way and through here. The proposed signage is not out of proportion with the size of the building. It's less than the 10%. And in looking at this one compared to the signage that was there originally, the applicant is proposing an additional 28 square feet more than Circuit City has, and an additional 18 feet more than what Michael's has. And the recommendation in planning case 17-36, the commission moved to approve dimensional flexibility to allow the 432 square feet of wall signage. And the applicant is in the audience to answer questions and make a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Harlicker. Commission, any questions for Mr. Harlicker? Petitioner like to make a statement at this time, please? Come up to the microphone, give your name and address, please, for the record.
Good evening, I'm Jason Meyer with Quality Sign Solutions. Address is Hudson, Wisconsin. Good evening, thank you for having us. Mr. Harlicker did an awesome job going through everything. I'd only like to add that I could answer any question. There was a lot of thought put into the size and the scope, like he mentioned, not doing an oversized sign, but we wanted to make sure that you could see it from that intersection. They are a pretty busy outlet, a lot of visitors on a daily basis, so it's just best to get them going in the right direction from a safety standpoint, legibility standpoint, all that stuff. So any questions, let me know.
Commission, any questions for Mr. Meyer? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
All right, at this time I will open a public hearing in planning case 17-36, request for dimensional flexibility to allow 432 square feet of wall signage. Anyone here wish to speak to the public hearing? Seeing no one, close the public hearing. Commission, your thoughts?
Well, I drove around there this week, and I feel that the signage is very important, that they have the size, and they've changed the color from the red plug to the green now, it looks like. So, it maybe won't look so much like a plug anymore, but now that they have a different sign on it. So I'm in favor of that.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Casey?
I think it makes sense. I mean, the sign is designed that way for maximum visibility, and there were good arguments advanced for the size of the letters and the fact that they need to be read from the traffic lanes. So I'm in favor of granting them additional flexibility.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Heikela.
I as well am very happy to see that the space is being filled in. It's a good welcome business to the community, and the sign looks sufficient. It's sufficient for them. I approve it as well, or will vote to approve it.
All right, thank you. Anyone willing to make a
Yep,
motion?
in planning case 17-36, I move that the commission approve the dimensional flexibility to allow 432 square feet of wall signage based on the findings that the additional signage will be better integrated in the business into that shopping center.
Second.
Motion by Stevens, second by Knobloch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This is a decision by the Planning Commission and can be appealed to the City Council within 10 days, if anyone wishes to do so. Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second case under new business, planning case 17-11. Consider a change in exterior elevations for Coon Rapids Chrysler Jeep. Mr. Harlequin.
Yes, Chair and Commission. Back on May 18th, the Planning Commission approved the site plan for the new dealership, replacement dealership. And that site plan approval included exterior elevations for the dealership building. Since that time, the applicant has submitted a building permit for the dealership, and the proposed building elevations included modifications to what the Planning Commission approved. At the November 16th meeting, the Commission provided some informal feedback on the proposed modifications. Those changes included changes to the Chrysler entrance on the west elevation, elimination of upper windows on the east elevation, and elimination of a glass window and entrance on the north. Here is what was approved by the Planning Commission, and this is the, I believe the north elevation here. And the changes here included an area right here. This was an area that was designated as essentially kind of a photo booth, and to eliminate ambient lighting, the plans that were submitted for the building permit just had the door going in there without the exterior glass. On the front elevation, they had the entrance portal here. What was approved, building permit had this portal removed and a canopy in place. And then on this elevation here, you see the windows, upper level windows here. Those windows are eliminated on the plans that were submitted for the building permit. Here's the building permit elevations. Again, on the front, this was where the portal was. What is in its place is a canopy, and the reason for that canopy is to enable them to, at some point in the future, replace it with new and improved Chrysler entrance. And though they're in the audience today, so they can give more of a detailed presentation as to why that's is the way it is. And then here is where the photo booth was, and now it's more of just a door to go in and out from the outside. And this is the elevation where the windows were removed. There were two of them here, one here, and one here. These windows here were in the car wash, and then this window here was removed, and then there was one here. I do have the site plan that kind of illustrates where these changes were. This is the front of the building here, and this is the entrance that's being modified for the Chrysler. I believe the photo booth was down at this end of the building here, and this end here is where the windows were being removed. This is the Ford dealership. And as you can see, this isn't just a flat wall. There are breaks in the wall, and there are 2 windows here, 1 window here, and then the window here were the ones that were proposed to be removed. With that, what I'd like to do is turn it over to the applicant and let them give a presentation as to why these changes were necessary and answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Good evening. Nice to see you guys again. Nguyen Hong here with Baker Associates, architect for the project.
And I'm Wayne Pazinski with Carousel Motor Group, the owner.
Okay, so I guess the best argument that we have here is, everybody always wonders, when do we stop designing? And the answer is we don't. We keep doing it until, we come up with the best solution possible. So working within the constraints that we have here, going through every change that we have, what we do know is what we like to focus on, and what we do know is that the portal for the Chrysler that we showed was actually a portal that came from our thought process and minds. It's because we were in a position where Chrysler is going through a change here. So our intent is to present the best possible solution that we have currently to the city of Coon Rapids and to the Carousel Motor Group. So what we did was, we just took the approach of, if we're going to have, a blank slate here and we aren't tied to a portal anymore, what is the best solution that we can present forward to the city and to the store? And what we came up with was this idea of, more glass, which is something that we went to the Planning Commission and City Council actually to get approval on, to get more glass on that elevation. We took that, we ran with it and said, we're going to keep it as much glass as possible because this now ties into the jewel box that's on Highway 10, but also on the other side where there's a service drive that actually has a glass facade too. So we wanted to take that and we just run with that with the jewel box, the glass facade on the service drive, and then making the actual show floor, that same design intent there. So if you look at the rendering, I think that it shows it best in terms of, the unobstructed view into the actual building. The canopy is nice and light. There's glass above it, glass below it, and then the doors that are used to get the cars in and out are also as light an area as possible. So in itself, this is the biggest massing of that jewel box that we see. You go around to Highway 10, and then you're going to see that expression again as another jewel box there. And then the third time is going to be at that service drive beneath it. That's all glass too. So that's the continuity that we wanted with that front entrance. Is both sides and that front, it's more cohesive. And we were able to do that because Chrysler said you don't need that portal anymore at this time. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, and I don't think I want to really speculate. But I will say that what I'm presenting here, what we're presenting here, is the best that we have, and that's what we want to offer to the city of Coon Rapids. Moving along to the side, where that overhead door was removed. That's simply right there, yeah. A matter of the function of what's behind there, and that photo booth needs a lot of controlled lighting. So there's an overhead door in lieu of that, all of that glass door front, and then there's also a man door there. Yep. So that one's pretty simple to understand. The form of this follows the function of what's on the inside. And then going to the back, the windows being omitted. We got to keep in mind here that the elevation that's shown, it falls pretty flat, literally, but there are steps or jogs in there. So what drove that is that the overhead door going into the shop was at 12 feet, but then it got raised to 14 feet as a matter of function. They're going to be servicing Sprinters, which are taller trucks or vans, and some have ladders on them. racks on them. So that 2 feet, you would think, hey, just simply move it up 2 feet, right? But that things cascade essentially. Behind that overhead door, there's a housing that's about 36 or 3 feet to 4 feet. So that glass didn't really just fit in there anymore. So that was just omitted. And then we started going down the line and just thinking, well, the next one is in the shop, but can that be improved? Well, yes, it can. The skylights were moved. They were optimized. And then we went to the car wash and said, you know what? Doesn't make as much sense in the car wash anymore because it's going to be hard to keep clean. So that's how that got changed. And you'll also notice that it's not just the windows that went away, but it's also the pattern along the back too. Between the water wash, sandblast, and exposed aggregate, we reworked that so that we had a pattern that was consistent, that was as uninterrupted as possible. But we also wanted to break down the mass of it so it just didn't feel like a blank wall, because that's something that we know that the city is always after, but we're also after as designers and architects and I guess building owners too. Nobody wants to be the person that's presenting something that's just boring to a city. So there you have it, those 3 changes and why it came about. I can answer any questions if you have them.
Commission?
Yep, I have a
Commissioner
question.
Stevens?
So once Chrysler puts in a new design, is that your intent to put in new portal there and change it, or?
Well, we don't know the future, A, but
Right.
B, we don't know what the design is going to be or is not going to be. What we would be comfortable with is what we've shown, and that's something that we could live with, for the next 10, 20 years.
They would have to put a gun to my head
To change it?
to put in a portal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have no intent of doing that. Originally, the portal that you were shown, a portal like that was required by Chrysler. The one that you were shown was design enhanced by the architectural team. It wasn't an approved portal by Chrysler. The portal that Chrysler would like to see on their buildings is the same one we have today. It's neither elegant nor functional. It's just plain ugly and has no place to be on this building. I fought pretty long and hard with Chrysler to get that eliminated and was finally successful. They wouldn't approve the portal that you're showing here. They said either use ours or do none. So we jumped at the opportunity to do none.
Okay.
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch?
I have 2 questions. One is, when you kind of partially answered it, but what is the time frame for the Chrysler branding, and will that have any effect in plans going further to construction?
I'm sorry. The plans we have today are approved by Chrysler, so we're good to go.
Excellent. Okay.
And we're working with the precast and the steel now.
Okay. And my second and final question is, going forward, all things pertaining to go ahead as planned, what is the construction timetable, if that is available? The construction timetable to start with these changes?
The timetable I've drafted will start digging a hole in March, and then we'll finish in February of 19.
Okay.
We're eager to get this done.
Will the ground be thawed by then? I hope so. March. That's all I have.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Eichler?
I have one simple question. The overhang that's out there now, is there any time frame at all for when the revised one might come out?
We don't know what's in store, quite honestly.
So-
Right.
We
But
just-
there's no intention for us to do a revision on it.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Again, if Chrysler absolutely made me do it,
Okay.
we would negotiate hard to not do it, and if I was given no option, we would try to, I'd have Nguyen and his team draw up the best possible that they can, and then we'd come back to you, but My hope and expectation is that that never happens.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought
Yeah.
it was,
Because again, they've approved the building that you see.
okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey?
So they've approved what you're proposing
Correct.
to us?
Yes.
Okay, I want to thank you for hearing us from the last meeting, from the November meeting, with concerns, because I think that you've addressed them adequately, and I think your designs look pretty good, and you heard us, I guess. So thank you.
A question that I have is, your original portal raised the roof line to break up that long expanse of flat roof. Now that whole front is just one long, flat expanse, and some articulation would be nice.
Well, that is part of the design that we brought forward here. We also have to keep in mind that you know, there is the Jeep side of things too, and the space between Jeep and Dodge, or Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram, you know, it's set back a little bit. So we do offer a little bit of that relief. But in terms of, you know, I think my design intent for this is that it would be, you know, as straight as possible. But we also have to realize that the ACM on top of it, the metal panels, do stick out a little bit over the glass. So there is going to be a little shadow cast there. So it's not totally flat. It's just enough. And I think as I was designing this, you know, the whole concept really is, you know, just enough, because we want this to be a 20, 30-year building. And, you know, when you start to do things that are a little too out there, it gets outdated pretty quickly. So just looking ahead.
My comment is more along not articulation front to back, it's the flat roof line. Whereas when you had the entryway on the original drawing, you had it going up, giving us a break in that roof line, which I know Commissioner Stevenson, who isn't here this evening, really liked that break as well as I do. And this is just too long of an expanse of all the same roof line. It's just too plain.
Mr. Chair.
Well, respectfully, I appreciate your opinion. I have a different one.
Okay.
And I'd also like to remind you that that portal was a freestanding element in front of the building. It wasn't actually attached to the building.
But looking at that front elevation, it broke up the roof line
Agreed.
when you looked at it. Whereas there's nothing here that breaks it up. It's just one long expanse.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Smokey.
So I'd like to respectfully disagree with that a little bit. And I know I wasn't here for the meeting last week, or last month, so I don't recall all the concerns that were brought up from the review. But I guess I'm looking at it, I'm thinking it is a matter of taste in some respects too. And it's like, I'm looking at the color rendering, and to me, it looks very clean. I like I guess that smooth front. There is the dimension as you kind of go from the one area to the next, you know, going from right to left. I'm seeing some dimension in the front of the building. So it's not like it's just one flat front that makes it look like an industrial building. This, I think with the lighting, the differentiation with the signage for the different vendors, et cetera, it's like it does, you know, add some differentiation. I do think it's some personal taste. I think the color rendering, though, looks great myself.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Well, it's not just, but we need to go back to what our bylaws are. Isn't it supposed to be so many feet, you do have a break in something? Are they with the, I mean, we can do design flexibility also. I know that's part of it, but isn't it with the building and the roof and all of that, isn't it supposed to be so many feet and we have a break in it?
Yes, Commissioner Stevens and Commissioners and Sheriff. Yeah, the design guidelines do reference breaks in the roof line, but breaks can be accomplished in different ways. The appearance of breaks by shifting the facade back and forth. You know, there's this end down here has, if I'm not mistaken, is a little bit higher than down here where the Jeep is. Then you've got the break and the setback here, so it does appear from the front that the roof might be lower. And then you've got, then you've got this facade here. So there are different ways to accomplish that.
I think the break that we've interpreted that is that horizontal, and between the glass and the ACM above it. That in itself is two materials, and we also worked, just the height changed a little bit, and also, it goes up and down, because we wanted to get that ratio of glass to ACM, to be aesthetically pleasing, and this is why we have much more glass than ACM. But just enough ACM that when we have the signs on there, the Chrysler, Dodge, Coon Rapids, and Ram, there's still enough space for it to breathe. We don't have just a sliver of ACM and signs that are overly large. So I think what we've interpreted this as, as the break is, just the proportion, the materials. There's more glass on there than what we're allowed, but we got approval for that, and I think everybody's on board with having more glass. So.
And it is kind of framed by the Jeep on the left side, the elevation there, and then how that's set back. And then once you get past Ram, service department being set back and having a ceiling at a different elevation. I guess now I'm wishing that we had brought a rendering from square on to the building so you could appreciate how it looks all the way across it.
Well, yeah, I would like to have the rendering extended a little more, because that glass on that side, I think, is what ties it together, and it makes it, makes more sense too as you go around there. And then when you go around to the other side on Highway 10, the jewel box, that's pretty much an unobstructed view into it. It's that same expression, only bigger here on the show floor.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
We do have to have a public hearing on this matter. So at this time, I will open a public hearing in Planning Case 17-11, considering a change in the exterior elevations of the Coon Rapids Chrysler Jeep. Anyone wishing to speak at the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commission, what are your thoughts on so far we've only talked about the front elevation. I think I can speak for the majority of the commission, at least from discussions from last month. We didn't have any issues with the removal of the door for the photo shop or the photo booth because of the need to control the lighting. We did, however, still have concerns on, at least last month, have some concerns on the loss of the windows in the car wash area.
But then they added more of the skylight texturing and the stone. Is that two different colors on the back for where the car wash is?
It would be the same intricately colored precast. It'll be white, nice and white, but the texture is going to read differently, because when it gets sandblasted or water washed, the aggregate gets exposed, and the aggregate, which is the stones in there, actually have their own color to them. There's some that has more of a blue tint, some has more of an earth tone tint. The precast will let us pick it out, and we'll choose what's most appropriate when we see it on site. They have samples on site for us to approve. But in terms of color, the water wash, you know, the aggregate is quite a bit more exposed, because when you wash it away, you see the stone, you know, kind of three-dimensionally. The sandblast is more of a light sandblast, so you'll see ripples in it, you know. From 10 feet away, you can definitely tell. From 20 feet away, or even 100 feet away, it'll still be as a cohesive wall unit, but just enough to break it down.
Now, did you used to just have one panel of it below the windows originally?
We had, yeah, we had the same concept, but you know, I think we also had acid etched in there, and then we talked to the precast there, and you know, we told them, you know, look, is this gonna look good, you know? And they weren't able to tell us, yeah, it's gonna look fantastic. So I was like, yeah, I don't know. We're not gonna go with, you know, we can't guarantee it. So we just switched it and said, you know what, we know what sandblast is, what water washed is, and what, you know, smooth trowel panels are like, or pan form. So that's what we went with, and we went with more of that. And to supplement, you know, the windows being taken away, you know, we just wanted to add more of that in there.
And did you bring any material samples of what the panels would be looking like?
This time I did not, sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey?
I think that's a good look, that it catches the eye along there. Took out the windows, which I can sure see why you would want to in a car wash lane. And I think that's, what you've come up with is a good solution to that, with that, that aggregate and a little difference in the look. So thank you.
And Chair and Commissioners, back to the site plan, just to point out, this isn't just a flat wall that's going across here. Each part is recessed back in. So you've got two windows here, you know, you've got this facade here with a car wash, then it drops back in and it's here, then it drops back in again along here, and finally over here where the service stores are. So it does provide some relief that way, you know, the horizontal relief.
Commission, any other questions for the petitioners at this time? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commission, your thoughts?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey?
I agree with Commissioner Schmolke that it's a good look. I like all the glass of this color rendering, and I think it's real pleasing to the eye. It looks like a win-win to me.
Chair Short.
Commissioner Knobloch?
Is it time to entertain a motion?
Certainly.
I'd like to enter a motion in recommendation of Planning Case 17-11 that the Planning Commission move to approve the proposed 3 changes as set forth.
I'll second.
Motion by Knobloch, second by Heikkila. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries on a 4-2 vote with Commissioner Stevens and Chair Schwartz opposed. This is a decision by the Planning Commission and can be appealed to the City Council within 10 days if someone so chooses. Congratulations. Mr. Harlicker, next case, Planning Case 17-37, an ordinance amendment to allow veterinary clinics as a permitted use in the original shopping district. Sambatic Incorporated? Mr. Harlicker.
Yep. Chair and Commissioners, what is being proposed is an ordinance amendment to allow veterinary clinics in the regional shopping district, which is essentially the Riverdale village area. The applicant is requesting the change, Sampatec. The code currently allows veterinary clinics, animal hospitals, and kennels with no outdoor runs as permitted uses in the general and community commercial and office districts. Those same uses are not allowed in the regional shopping district. Two related uses, however, are permitted. Those are pet stores and pet grooming shops, provided no animals are kept overnight or outside and no noise is audible from outside the building or lease space. The applicant believes that the proposed amendment that allows veterinary clinics and hospitals, they share the same characteristics as pet stores and pet grooming shops, in that they really are geared towards animals. The existing PetSmart business, which is in the Riverdale Village, along with selling pet supplies, they also offer grooming, training, and they do have veterinary services in that building through Banfield Pet Hospital. When considering an ordinance amendment, three things should be considered: health, safety, order, and convenience, and general welfare, the effect on present and potential land uses, and whether or not the proposed use is in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan and any applicable development districts. Staff looked at those three criteria and did find that the proposed change does meet those criteria. In the current code, veterinary clinics, animal hospitals, and kennels are grouped together in the same use table. The proposed ordinance eliminates the grouping. What's being proposed is kennels are listed as a separate use. They're no longer grouped with the veterinary clinics and animal hospitals, and the kennels use, where their use is not changed. And then veterinary clinics and animal hospitals stay grouped together. And it's proposed that they be allowed as a permitted use in the regional shopping district, with a clause that provided no noise is audible outside the building and no outdoor runs are allowed. And with that, I'll answer any questions. And the applicant is in the audience tonight to answer any questions and make a brief statement.
Thank you, Mr. Harlicker. Commission, any questions for Mr. Harlicker?
I have one.
Mr. Stevens?
I was wondering, where would they have the dogs use, facilities, or, go outside? Are they gonna have like a pad area so that they, when they come and go, they need to
For
use... Coming in, they wanna go to the bathroom because they see the vet and they get nervous, at least. Is there gonna be a place that they're, because there's no runs.
Right.
But is there...
like most vet and clinics, they come inside. PetSmart does allow you to bring your dogs in, so you see dogs in there all the time.
Right, no, I mean outside.
So it's the same thing, I suppose. I don't believe that there's a designated pet area in front of that, any of the PetSmarts or the other pet store over by the Target.
Right,
Target
but I was
shop.
just wondering, is this...
I think that might be a design feature when they do come in for approvals.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schmolke?
Just to answer that, what I've seen, like at the two stores we have right now where they do have this, the store encourages the dog owners or the pet owners to clean up after their animal. There's usually in the parking lot, there's a rock area or whatever, and then they ask that the owners clean up after the pet, just like any other place in the city, you would be required to do that. I don't know specifically where this particular veterinary clinic is being proposed, but I would presume that it would have some sort of the same thing.
Yeah, my only concern is that there is a place
Right.
that they can relieve themselves.
Clean up,
before they-
clean up
you
in
know,
aisle
yeah,
4.
So, and so
Yeah.
of the two that we have, it seems like there's one that has kind of a better facility for that, or an
Okay.
area for that, and where it can be cleaned up more easily. And the other, it's just straight parking lot. So I'm not quite sure how they manage it, but myself, I haven't seen any issues as, you know, someone who uses that shopping area. So there must be some solution that they have.
And then with the veterinary clinic, the dogs stay overnight for surgeries and things like that, so this is also something just to.
And they'd be inside.
Yeah, well, yes, they would be inside because there's no run, but that's, you know, one of the things with the other ones with the pet store. Well, I guess the dogs are in the pet store too, so.
Is this the facility where the dogs will be possibly staying overnight?
Yeah, Commissioner Heikla, I would guess that, yeah, in a pet hospital veterinary clinic, some animals are kept overnight, you know, following surgery or pre-surgery.
Is there a difference between pet hospital and veterinary clinic?
Are these maybe questions we could ask the petitioner too? Seems like they may.
Well, not for our,
For the zoning code, there isn't. I think practically, you probably get more intensive pet care, you know, more serious cases would be involved in going to a pet hospital versus a clinic, which is more traditional. You go there for the checkup and shots and things like that.
But I guess my question is that what will happen here? Will they have surgery and possibly stay for a couple of days?
If an animal hospital went in, yes, they could certainly have surgery. There's probably minor surgery that's also done in veterinary clinics.
spay neuters.
Maybe this would be a good time for the petitioner to come up and make his statement. Give your name and address, please, and
Sure. Good evening. My name is Brady Busselman with Somatech, located at 12800 Wetwater Drive in Minnetonka. I can shed a little light on the location. So I'm acting on behalf of the owner of Centrum Corner, right on the northeast corner of Round Lake in Maine, the empty site next to Panera. So they are very eager to submit an application once we clear this hurdle and hopefully be breaking ground this spring. So the user, I can tell you a little bit about who is looking at this site. It's a high-end veterinary clinic called Wellhaven Pet Health. We can certainly provide a little more robust details when we do submit the application. And I'll have the owner here as well to provide a little more insight. But my understanding is it's more of the veterinary end of things versus a hospital. I think it's been compared to an Aspen dental type level of clinic for dogs. Not just dental, but that's the level of facility that they're proposing.
thank you.
Certainly.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, I've been taking notes. We'll certainly, when we get into the details of our design, we'll take into account the question about, where do dogs relieve themselves, and anything else that I pick up here. So happy to answer more questions as they come up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we do need a public hearing in this matter, so at this time I will open a public hearing in planning case 17-37, ordinance amendment to allow veterinary clinics in regional shopping districts. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter? Seeing none, we will close public hearing. Commission.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schmolke.
So I appreciate understanding a little bit more too where it's being proposed. One of the things I didn't really mention but was concerned about too is the traffic in the area, and is that conducive to pet owners being able to bring their pets into the store or the veterinary clinic safely, et cetera. It sounds like it is an area that would be good for that. So at this point, I would be in favor of supporting this.
Anyone else? Commissioner Cornelius.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, so this is a code amendment that would apply in our entire regional shopping zone. So it's not necessarily relative to just this site, it's relative to any other property. So, I mean, I do think that we can certainly address at the point that a site plan comes in the questions that were raised this evening about a place for the pets to be exercised, because obviously that is something that you have to do, especially if they are going to have a surgery. I know I brought my pet in and there are areas that they have to use. So that's something we can address. I think really the focus is on the use itself, and is that appropriate in this particular district. And I think from the staff perspective, I think we're comfortable with this change. So.
Is it something where we can propose that it only allows same-day surgery? I do think that there would be more, I'm not in the business, but I would assume that there might be more need to exercise dogs, perhaps outside or whatever, if they're staying there for longer procedures. But if it's same-day surgeries like dental work or whatever, just minor procedures, that seems more like a come-and-go type of activity. And then again, I would still only be concerned if the area is not conducive to having the traffic of pets coming in and out, but.
Mr. Chair, I can maybe just comment on that. I mean, I think that would be an issue that we would want to explore, maybe in the definition of a veterinary clinic or an animal hospital, what those characteristics are that make them different. We haven't obviously addressed that this evening, but that may be something that we want to look at down the road.
I agree.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Heikkila.
might be a silly question, but I'll give it a shot. What if somebody drives up with a horse? Does a horse get treated there?
Of course.
If the clinic has a facility to treat large animals, conceivably they could. Typically, clinics in suburban areas aren't equipped to handle those type of situations.
Sure.
A lot of times what they do is they have a vet that will go out to the site, but I live in Malacca, and the clinic there in the rural area, there's never, they've got their trailer and they go out to the farms to treat the animals. The farmers don't bring the horses and cows into the clinic.
Sure,
They
I
just
understand
aren't
that.
equipped for that.
I understand that. But this is then basically cats and dogs, is what we're talking about, I guess.
Could be
Exotic birds and
Rabbits.
hamsters and all of those things too.
I think this,
Reptiles?
Yes.
I think this brings up the question or the classification of what the definition is of a hospital, veterinary clinic. Perhaps that's maybe the area that this issue should settle in. What do we define, or what are the limitations of a veterinarian clinic versus a hospital, vet hospital?
But I know that sometimes when animals are spayed or neutered, sometimes there's complications and they stay overnight. You know, I mean, there's some of those things too. So you would hate to, say that couldn't happen, because then you're sending a sick animal home, so that's part of a veterinarian clinic too, I would think. So, I don't know.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schmolke.
So I keep going back to the fact that we already have, some veterinary clinics via
Right.
the larger box stores, right? So I am trying to figure out how this would be any different. They do talk, in the discussion, it does state that they would be requesting to do the same type of activity as the existing clinics that are already in this area. So I think they're just asking to be independent of that big box store, rather than having to, again, be within something like that. So I have a hard time saying no when we're already allowing it to some extent.
Well, I'm
I don't get what the
I'm
difference
not
would be.
saying no.
No,
I'm
I
just
didn't-
saying that, taking my former animals to, it might be considered an animal hospital though, where they're spayed and neutered, but right in, on Foley Boulevard, well, that's the one, but there's not a lot of area there to exercise their animals because of the
Certainly.
liquor store and, all of that stuff too. So, I mean, I have no problem with it. I just want to make sure that some of the questions that the people are out there are hearing that we're really being thoughtful and not just saying, yeah, go ahead, because it's also for the animal safety, so. And people, too, because some people are afraid of dogs, that are in that shopping area, and here, the dog gets loose and, but it's no different than having it on a busy street, and they get loose that way, too, so.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey.
So I'm understanding that some of these activities are already taking place in that regional shopping center. There are veterinary clinics. Do they allow overnights?
Well, they do shots, basically. including-
Just
yeah.
drop-in clinics, that kind of thing?
We're talking Banville at PetSmart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have veterinary services, but this is looking at a standalone and, yeah. Same services.
So are we
Mr.
ready to
Chair?
make a motion?
Commissioner Heikela?
Well, my question is still, is there a difference between a veterinary clinic and an animal hospital? And which one are we approving one or are we approving both?
Chair and Commissioner Heikela, the ordinance as written permits them both.
Because it's essentially,
Yeah,
some of those services are being provided now?
Commissioner Casey, that's part of it, and I think you might be getting into a gray area when you try to differentiate between a veterinary clinic and a hospital. A lot of the services that are provided overlap between both of them.
Okay.
Commissioner Stevens.
In planning case 17-37, I recommend that we approve the proposed ordinance amendment to allow veterinary clinics and animal hospitals as permitted use in the regional shopping district.
Second.
Motion by Stevens, second by Casey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This is a recommendation by the Planning Commission and will be introduced by the City Council at their January 16, 2018 meeting. Thank you. All right, moving on to other business. First, I would like to take this opportunity, even though he isn't here, to thank Mr. Johnson for his many years of service to our commission. Whether all the commission knows or not, Mr. Johnson's retiring after what is something like 30 years of service to the city. At the end of this month. So I wish him well in his retirement and thank him for his many years of service to our commission.
Yes, second that.
And Mr. Harlicker, anything else under other business that you can add for us?
Well, at the City Council meeting this week on Tuesday, Council did approve the ordinance amendment for accessory structures that the Commission reviewed in November, modifying the square footage requirement and eliminating the need for concrete pads on accessory structures that are less than 200 square feet. They also approved revised elevations for the Honda dealership, Essentially, the only change that was made in the end is changing the blue panels to white. The revised elevations brought the stone back in at the same level as what the Planning Commission approved. So what the council approved was the same elevations that the commission saw, except the panels were changed from blue to white.
And what does our January agenda look like?
Kind of busy. A couple registered land surveys, a site plan for a business called Raising Cane, which I'm sure many have heard of it. They are proposed to go in up on the corner of Round Lake Boulevard and Northdale. There was an older convenience store and car wash there. If you drive by it now, you'll see the backhoes. Most of the demolition, I believe, is done. We are looking at a laundromat that's going into the old Pizza Hut building on Coon Rapids Boulevard. They are coming in for dimensional flexibility. They're proposing some stone pillars on the exterior of the building that increases the nonconformity of the setbacks by 2 feet. So they'll be in for requesting dimensional flexibility for that. And then we're also proposing an ordinance amendment for lots that are within the Mississippi River Critical Corridor area that will require staff approval of tree cutting on the lots prior to the trees being cut down.
All right, sounds like a busy month.
Not celebrate too much New Year's Eve.
And anybody on commission have anything to add? Then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Stephen, second by Casey, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries, meeting's adjourned.